Hello and welcome to episode 380 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Evan Silva. We are on part 4 of our 4-part team-by-team preview. Evan, how's it going?
It's going great. Ready to talk these South divisions.
South divisions, exactly. On today's show, we're going to do NFC South, AFC South, team by team, talking through the biggest thing we're looking at for each team as we get set for training camps to open in July. Before we get into that, have to remind everyone that the ETR golf product is up and ripping. If you haven't noticed, we launched it around the Masters and through Rufus Peabody, who is the best golf bettor in the entire world. His DFS projections, our ownership, ceiling projections, volatility rankings, top plays, everything you're used to is in the golf product. Check that out on the subscribe page. Also, if you're not on Underdog Fantasy yet, this $10 million best ball tournament is so outrageous. $2 million to first, $1 million to second, $1 million to the regular season winner. We've been working really hard on content around Underdog, and there's some really good articles you can find on the site under the best ball tab about strategy for Underdog and on our Underdog specific rankings, which I think, when you're trying to play best ball at a high level, it's important to understand the differences between Underdog and standard rankings. And hopefully the articles and the rankings will give you some context around that. So check that out. If you're not on Underdog yet, use promo code ETR when you sign up, and they'll give you a matching deposit bonus up to $100. All right, let's get into it here with the NFC South. Atlanta Falcons, my question is Kyle Pitts. Will Kyle Pitts score touchdowns? And yeah, it seemed to be a fluke last year, that Kyle Pitts did not score touchdowns. We also saw a long history of Julio Jones not being really a factor around the goal line in the red zone with Matt Ryan too. But now Matt Ryan is gone. It's going to be some version of Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. So Kyle Pitts is going very high. I mean, he's been going as the clean tight end 3 in drafts behind Andrews and Kelsey. Evan, what do you think about Pitts with Ridder / Mariota this season?
Well, one of the reasons that Kyle Pitts didn't score many touchdowns last year is because the Falcons didn't score many touchdowns. And do we think the Falcons are going to score many touchdowns this year?
I mean, quarterback play is going to be worse. I mean, pretty clearly, yeah.
I mean, there are definitely scenarios where you could see Desmond Ridder making starts for this team in 2022.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's a bet on talent situation. There's a ton of opportunity, even with Drake London added. They're building this passing game around size. Drake London's 6'4" or 6'5". Kyle Pitts is 6'5". They even traded for Bryan Edwards, who's a big hulking presence. And shoot, Bryan Edwards, he's going to get every opportunity to start, I think.
Either him or Zacchaeus, yeah.
Yeah. And then in the backfield, I'm interested in how Tyler Algier comes along. Their 5th-round pick got some opportunity when they cut Mike Davis, and I think they like him. He's a big back who can catch passes.
Yeah, and also Cordell Patterson is 31 years old at this point. I know he doesn't have a ton of tread on the tires because he was only a special teamer for so long. But I think even they realized last year, they tried to make Cordell a base back late last year, and they were limiting his snaps. I mean, it just didn't seem like they thought he could sustain it as the feature back either. Let's go to Carolina. Speaking of being able to sustain, I mean, the clear question to me is can Christian McCaffrey actually sustain health? I mean, dude has been hurt 2 straight seasons, ton of ankle injuries, high ankle sprains. When he's healthy, it's actually even though Carolina's bad and Sam Darnold sucks and they have all kinds of problems, I don't think it's crazy to take Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor at 1.1. I don't think that's crazy at all if you could say Christian McCaffrey's going to be healthy. And I really don't have much reason to think that this ankle stuff will linger. He missed so much time. He had the whole offseason to recover. He's obviously healthy now. So I'm tempted in full PPR to go CMC over JT at 1.1. I don't know what you think about that and anything else on the Carolina Panthers.
The team situation is just so bad that it would, almost at least 9 times out of 10 lean me in the direction of Jonathan Taylor, because this could really go south quick. I mean, I haven't seen any first coach to be fired props yet, but Matt Rule has got to be number 1 or number 2.
Yeah.
Because he's, there have even been murmurs that ownership is down on Matt Rule. And I mean, in what, like, can you even envision a scenario where this goes even all right for the Panthers this year? I mean, they might be the worst team in the entire NFL.
What if they got Jimmy Garoppolo? Would that change your opinion?
That would be, I think that would be a solid pickup for them. I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, it's not like they don't have pieces, but the Sam Darnold thing is just, it's such a bad situation to be in.
Yeah.
And then that limited their draft, their ability to draft this year because they gave up stuff for him. And it just feels like it's a cratering situation. And Matt Rule is going to be out of there quick. But yeah, I mean, I think Jimmy Garoppolo would give them the chance to maybe, hover around 500.
By the way, unrelated to the Christian McCaffrey or Sam Darnold stuff, Robbie Anderson's ADP is 172, and we have him 126. I think that's like the biggest ADP gap that we have. We're like 50 spots, almost 50 spots ahead of ADP on Robbie Anderson. So just wanted to put that out there for the people who are drafting right now.
Which I think is fine. I mean, people really have thrown in the towel on Robbie Anderson. I mean, I get it, but I think they've thrown in the towel too much.
Go to the New Orleans Saints. Question here to me is just health, and we should get some really good looks at health of Michael Thomas, at health of Jameis Winston in camp, hopefully in preseason games. If they are healthy, my question is, will they actually let Jameis rip it? Will they let Jameis do some Bucs stuff where he was like such an awesome fantasy player? Man, I was playing Jameis Winston in cash when he was on the Bucs. I mean, imagine thinking that now. I mean, it's crazy because they didn't even play an NFL style offense last year. Now, what style of offense will they play? I don't know. I mean, Dennis Allen is the head coach. Pete Carmichael is the offensive coordinator. They've both been there under Sean Payton before Sean Payton left. I hope they let Jameis rip it because Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, like that's a pretty decent receiving core. You have Alvin Kamara also. So like, let the dude rip it. I don't know if they will though or not. What do you think about that and anything with New Orleans?
That's like the $1 million question. And that's going to go a long way toward dictating whether guys like Jarvis Landry can have fantasy relevance this year. How far can we get with Chris Olave? Because Chris Olave right now, I mean, he looks like he's in a pretty good position on paper. But Nick Underhill says that Jameis is going to be fine, and it's a little bit murkier on Michael Thomas.
Right. And you do get Chris Olave upside if something happens to Michael Thomas. In other words, like where Chris Olave is being drafted right now, around the 100th overall, bakes in Michael Thomas playing a lot. If something happens to Michael Thomas, I mean, Chris Olave is going to be a steal at 100th overall, or at least he'll, maybe not a steal, but he'll beat that ADP.
And we still don't have answers on Alvin Kamara's potential suspension.
Correct. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Bucks. My question is, how fast or can Rachaad White earn Brady / Arians' trust, Leftwich trust, or whatever? Because if he can't, Leonard Fournette role is like arguably the best in the entire NFL. I mean, the amount of catches and red zone looks that Leonard Fournette projects to get, Brady has such a high throw rate at running back. This team's going to be in the red zone a ton. Leonard Fournette's role is just so good. Now, if Rachaad White comes in there and starts mixing in a lot, taking third down work, whatever, that's obviously not great for Lenny, but I'm kind of skeptical on that. So I'm way above market on Leonard Fournette right now. We'll see what happens with Rachaad White. What are you seeing with Tampa?
Yeah, really high on Leonard Fournette. I mean, I have him as a top 12 RB right now. I think that Gio Bernard is the sort of, role-playing backup. And then Rachaad White, like, he's going to have to show something to, even be active on game days because Keyshawn Vaughn can play special teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just going to be a situation to monitor. But right now, I'm really high on Leonard Fournette. And Rachaad White is, kind of fringe draftable.
Yeah. I mean, Leonard Fournette's affordable. I mean, he was going a little bit later, but his ADP has settled in around 22nd overall. I mean, he's certainly affordable and can beat that ADP no problem. I'm also watching Chris Godwin health, by the way, because I mean, it was such a big part of the team. Obviously, toward the ACL and still got the big contract. So hope that he's okay and out there soon. But it's hard to project him to be out there like right away.
Yeah, and I mean, they gave good money to Russell Gage, who's also a slot receiver. So they're at least to some extent, I would think that signing was bracing for Chris Godwin to potentially miss September And that's a lot of fantasy weeks, if he were to miss like the first month of the season.
Yep. Let's go to the AFC South here. Final four teams we're going to do in this 4-part series. First up is the Indianapolis Colts. They make the move for Matt Ryan. They just like keep recycling these quarterbacks. And I guess I kind of get it. Like, oh, they thought Phillip Rivers still had something in the tank. Oh, they thought, Frank Reich thought that he could bring Carson Wentz back to life. Neither of those worked out. Will Matt Ryan at age 37 work out? I mean, I'm really skeptical that Matt Ryan can like really light it up, but I do think that he'll be better than Wentz and Rivers were. I don't know. I don't have a ton of faith in that though. What do you think about Matt Ryan at age 37 and anything else on Indy?
Didn't they go like 11-5 with Phillip Rivers?
Yeah, they may have.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the exact same situation. Like, and I think Matt Ryan is probably better right now than Phillip Rivers was then. But I think he's going to be a game manager. And I know Frank Reich came out with some quotes. I think you tweeted it out that, that they got, or that you were at least talking about it in Slack, that they got a little too run heavy last year.
Yep.
But I mean, that's like the nuts of what they do. I mean, they have, some big, powerful offensive linemen. They got arguably the best running back in the league. Like, to me, that's just coach speak. They're going to do – this is what Frank Reich has always done, is he has maximized the strengths of his team and minimized the weaknesses of his team. And he's very good at, like, self-scout. He's very good at understanding what his team is good at and what it's not good at. And I think it's going to continue to be really good as a running team, and I don't think they're really going to open it up or anything in the passing game.
Yeah, the exact quote from Frank Reich was, I think that last year we probably got a tad more run-centric than we wanted to be, than I wanted us to be. But, we're not really buying that too much. Like Evan said, that's mostly coach speak. They had 521 pass attempts last year. We currently have them projected for 553 pass attempts last year. So just a very, very, very small increase there on pass attempts for the Colts. By the way, the number of people that sent me this Michael Pittman quote on Matt Ryan, I mean, you guys are perverts. Michael Pittman said, Matt can pretty much put it wherever he wants. That was the quote. Matt can pretty much put it wherever he wants. And of course, I wasn't going to say anything because, it's just like such a layup. But I'm not exaggerating. Like 100 people on Twitter, maybe more, sent me this Michael Pittman quote. And by the way, Michael Pittman quoted the tweet and said, "Poor choice of words, but y'all know what I meant." So shout out to Michael Pittman for having a good sense of humor.
When are you gonna outgrow the dick jokes?
Yeah, well, listen, buddy, we're trying to make money, and you know what? Sex sells, all right? Sex sells. Let's go to Jacksonville. I know I've talked about it a ton. Like, I feel like every time we've done a podcast, I've talked about how I want to be in on Travis Etienne. My concern is that they overplay James Robinson, but the dude is coming off a very serious injury. This staff has no ties to him whatsoever. Former undrafted free agent, I believe, and Travis Etienne, much like DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook. These are the kind of running backs that I like to draft. And so I'm excited about Travis Etienne. That's really all I have to say about Jacksonville. But there's a lot of other stuff going on because, I mean, man, they have some pretty decent weapons. They overpaid for them, but they have at least some reasonable weapons this year. So what are you looking for on Jacksonville?
Yeah, James Robinson tore his Achilles on December 26th. I mean, that's very, very late in the game. And again, this is an injury that running backs tend to not come back from, although, we're advancing medically, and I think that we're moving toward the stage where running backs will be able to return from this injury. But will they be able to do it successfully is another question. Last night I was updating my RB tiers, and I moved Etienne up a tier, and James Robinson is kind of buried at this point. And then a little bit of a sleeper, Snoop Connor, who they drafted in the 5th round. It's entirely possible that James Robinson begins the season on reserve PUP.
Really likely, I think. Yeah,
probably really likely. And you look at the rest of their depth chart. I mean, it's a bunch of scrubs: Raquel Armstead, Nathan Cottrell, and Mekhi Sargent.
Yeah,
I think the situation is shaping up really nicely for Travis Etienne, like really, really nicely.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to end up being a player that, and he's participating in OTAs fully right now. I think he's going to be a player that I want to be above consensus on.
Also has the shower narrative with Trevor Lawrence. I noticed that you took Snoop Connor in a rookie draft that we were both in. I think it was the Roto World one. Maybe tell the Dynasty people a little bit more about what you saw in Snoop Connor. I know it was super late when you took him, but I still thought it was interesting.
It's really just a depth chart thing, just looking at the depth charts. Hey, this guy has a chance at some opportunity because of the injury to James Robinson, because Travis Etienne, it's possible that the new coaching staff views him as somewhat of a like a timeshare back, like the lead part
hybrid,
of a timeshare.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably do. Reading the OTA reports, like he's been catching more passes than getting carries in practice. It's really early. I don't know if that means anything. We know how Urban Meyer viewed him. Urban Meyer, like, allegedly wanted Kadarius Toney. Travis Etienne was like, the next best, gadget player or whatever on his list. But, now it's a new coaching staff. And what do they think of Travis Etienne? I think that sort of remains to be seen.
Yeah. Let's go to Houston. I mean, we had a heated debate in Slack yesterday about Brandon Cooks. I mean, there is people all over the map on Brandon Cooks. I think the misnomer around Brandon Cooks is that he's injury prone. I mean, I think people will be surprised to learn that Brandon Cooks is still only 28 years old, and Brandon Cooks has only missed 4 games over the last 7 seasons. Like the assumption that Brandon Cooks is always hurt is just not true. I also think that people underestimate Davis Mills. I think Davis Mills can legit play and can support Brandon Cooks. So I'm in on Brandon Cooks. He is the only one on this entire team, though, with an ADP above 125. I mean, they have no one anyone wants to draft. Dameon Pierce is the second guy behind Cooks. ADP is 125. Then Mechie, then Nico, then Brevin Jordan, then Rex Burkhead, then Davis Mills. Nobody wants any piece of anyone on Houston except Brandon Cooks. So I'm not sure there's lots to talk about here beyond Brandon Cooks. What do you think about him and anything else on the Texans?
No, I mean, I was way above consensus on Brandon Cooks last year. That paid off, and I see no reason to go away from that. The target competition is weak. Yes, they traded up for Mechie. Yes, he's coming off a severe knee injury and probably won't be ready to start the season. Nico Collins, I think he's got, some potential, but he's all potential right now. Brevin Jordan at tight end. I mean, this is this is minimal target competition for a dynamic player who's proven that he can do it. I mean, he's got a ton of 1,000-yard seasons under his belt, and you're right, he's not old yet. So I think Brandon Cooks is a guy to target in drafts, aggressively.
So we're going to move to the Titans here, and the debate that was in Slack was who would you rather have, Treylon Burks this year or Brandon Cooks?
Oh my! It's not even close, is it?
Well, don't tell that to Leone and Herzig, buddy. They were adamant that Treylon Burks is the better pick, and that moves us to the Titans because I think you're making a lot of assumptions on Treylon Burks. The target competition is nil. I get that. We do have Tennessee as the run heaviest team from a play calling perspective in the entire league right now. So even baking that in, we still have a pretty big projection on Treylon Burks because there's no one else. And there were times during the draft process that a lot of sharp people thought Treylon Burks was the number 1 wide receiver in this class. Now, Mike Renner, who we had on the podcast before the draft, did not think that. He comped Treylon Burks to Laviska Shenault in the way that he scored points, the way that he was used in college. So you're asking for Treylon Burks to hit. The ceiling case is clear. He's just as good as A.J. Brown or whatever. They have to throw the ball more. Derrick Henry gets hurt. He's the only one to throw to, and he goes nuts. You're just asking a lot for a rookie to step in and fill in what A.J. Brown was able to do. And A.J. Brown was good, but, man, he was only getting, 7 or 8 targets per game throughout his time in Tennessee. So I like Treylon Burks. In best ball, I think it makes a ton of sense. Rookies, peaking late on teams where things could go bad late for Derrick Henry or whatever. They start throwing more. I think that's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting debate. And I agree that they're kind of close. Definitely in best ball, I think they're kind of close. But for me, it's Brandon Cooks. But yeah, generally, what do you think about Treylon Burks this year and anything else on the Titans?
I say this as someone who just drafted Treylon Burks at 1.04 in a rookie draft. I think he could go either way. There are legitimate knocks on his game. He was somewhat of a manufactured touch player at Arkansas. And hopefully they incorporate some of that into the Titans offense. But I'm not in love with Todd Downing either. The quarterback situation. I mean, if things go south for them, like we could see Malik Willis in
Right.
there.
And that was the point that Thorman made during this debate was like,
Yeah.
if they have they're probably going to get rid of Ryan Tannehill regardless. So like, if they want to see what
Mhm.
they have late in the year in Malik Willis, that's really bad for Traylon Burks.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, there's a lot of ways that this could go wrong. And I think Brandon Cooks, just because of how weak the target competition is for him and the fact that we've at least seen Davis Mills perform adequately, and I think the arrow could go up on Davis Mills, and Brandon Cooks has done it. That does count for something. I mean,
Sure.
it absolutely counts for something. Traylon Burks did it in college, but, as a manufactured touch player.
Robert Woods' health reports on him look pretty solid, although he is getting old at this point. We'd be remiss, though, Evan, if we didn't end the show by talking about the big dog himself, Derrick Henry. ADP is around 7th overall. We saw, last season before he got hurt, he was just absolutely shredding for a while. You have been I feel like it's so hard for all of us to get our heads around Derrick Henry. He's like the most unique running back that we've seen in a really long time. Where are you at this year on Derrick Henry?
Yeah. I'm not settled on where I have him, but right now I have him as the RB4 behind Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and Dalvin Cook. Austin Eckler at number 5. I'm probably going to end up with Eckler ahead of Derrick Henry, I think. But I think I'll have Derrick Henry as a top 5 RB with Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, and Joe Mixon rounding out that first tier.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we have right now Derrick Henry 5th among running backs in our underdog rankings behind CMC, Taylor, Eckler, Dalvin, and then Derrick Henry. So yeah, I think that makes sense. You know the story on Derrick Henry at this point. I mean, when they're winning games.
And it's important to remember that last season, before he got hurt, they were using him in the passing game more than ever.
Yeah.
And that really can go a long way for a guy that had been so minimally used in the passing game previous to that.
Yeah, that's certainly a fair point. You know how it's going to go with Derrick Henry. They need to be winning games for him to really smash. But he did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight 100-yard games. And as to Evan's point, he had 18 catches in his first 7 games of the year, way more than he's had at any point in his career before that on a per game basis. All right, still a lot of time to talk through all these guys. Hope you guys really enjoyed these team by team pods. We're basically just trying to set the table. We're obviously going to dive way more into all these players as we get closer to peak drafting season. The best way to get prepared, though, beyond these podcasts will be to read Evan's team by team previews. Like if you tuned out the NFL for the last, 5 months and you just need to get caught up, Evan's team by team previews will probably be up early July, mid-July, something like that. And that is be a good way to get really, really caught up on what these teams have been doing and what our outlook is for them for this season. In the meantime, if you are doing drafts, our rankings are, of course, being poured over and consistently updating. Check out the Draft Kit Home League version, $29.99, Draft Kit Pro, $49.99. Check it out on the subscribe page. For Evan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.